The silent approach. The observation station Sentinel-9 drifted in the cold darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. It was a small structure barely visible against the cosmic backdrop designed for one purpose: to watch the empty spaces between stars. Inside, Dr. Sarah Chin sat at her monitoring console, sipping cold coffee and reviewing the same data stream she had watched for 3 years. Nothing ever happened out here. Nothing was supposed to happen. Then her screen flickered. At first, she thought it was a sensor glitch. A small distortion in the gravitational field, readings like a ripple on still water. She ran a diagnostic check. All systems normal. The distortion remained. Then it grew. Sarah leaned closer to the screen. Her coffee forgotten. The ripple became a wave. The wave became a storm. Her hands moved across the controls, switching to visual scanners. The screen filled with darkness, then stars, then something that made her breath catch in her throat. Shapes, thousands of them, moving together through the void like a school of metallic fish. Each one was massive, larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation. A vast spearhead pointed directly at the inner solar system. Sarah's fingers trembled as she activated the emergency beacon. Within seconds, red lights flashed throughout the station. Her colleague, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, burst through the door. "What is it, asteroid?" "Comet fleet," Sarah whispered. "Alien fleet more than I can count." Marcus stared at the screen. His military training took over immediately. He pulled up tactical displays measuring speed, trajectory, and estimated size. The numbers made no sense. This can't be right. These readings suggest over 15,000 vessels. "I've checked 3 times, Sarah said quietly. "It's real." On Earth, deep beneath the Swiss Alps, the Global Defense Council chamber came alive. Men and women in military uniforms and civilian clothes gathered around a circular table. Above them, holographic displays showed the alien fleet in terrible detail. General Victoria Hayes stood at the head of the table, her gray hair tied back, her face carved from stone. "Confirmed contact," she announced. "Unknown alien armada detected at Neptune's edge. Current velocity suggests arrival at Earth orbit in 18 days. The room erupted in voices, questions, fears, demands for action. President David Morrison raised his hand for silence. "Have they made contact? Any communication?" "None," Hayes replied. "No signals, no messages, no warning. They simply approach." "Intent?" someone asked. Hayes looked at the formation pattern on the display. The spearhead shape, the weapons ports visible on each ship, the absolute silence. Hostile without question. President Morrison turned to the defense minister. "Our fleet 42 active warships in orbit," the minister replied. "Another 100 in various stages of readiness against 15,000. He didn't finish the sentence. The room fell silent. The math was simple and brutal. Then General Hayes spoke again, her voice carrying a strange note of calm. "There is another option." Every eye turned to her. She touched a control panel. The holographic display changed, showing a different view of Earth's orbital space. But this time the display was filled with red symbols. Hundreds of them. Thousands, all marked as inactive or unknown. "What am I looking at?" Morrison asked. Ace smiled for the first time. "The real fleet." Far from Earth, beyond the orbit of Mars, something ancient stirred. In the shadow of Phobos, the larger Martian moon, massive doors opened in the rock itself. They had been hidden for decades. Built during humanity's first desperate expansion into space, when wars on Earth had taught brutal lessons about survival. Inside those hidden hangars, ships waited. Not the sleek exploration vessels that humanity showed the galaxy. Not the science ships or trade cruisers. These were different war machines built in secret, tested in silence, powered by technologies that humanity had developed but never revealed. Each ship was a fortress. Each weapon system was designed not for exploration, but for one purpose: to protect Earth at any cost. Captain James Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the battleship Eternal Vigil. Around him, his crew worked in focused silence, bringing ancient systems back to life. The ship groaned as power coursed through circuits that hadn't been active in years. Lights flickered on, weapons charged, engines humbled with barely contained fury. All systems online, his tactical officer reported. Weapons at full capacity. Stealth field, ready for deployment. Rodriguez nodded. He had trained for this moment his entire career, hoping it would never come. Now, it was here. Status of the rest of the fleet. Shadowing reports ready. Ghost Squadron acknowledges. The Hammer Group is fully operational. The officer paused. Sir, we have 24,416 vessels ready for deployment. All hidden, all waiting. Rodriguez looked at the tactical display showing the approaching alien armada. They were past Uranus now, moving with the confidence of conquerors who had never known defeat. He thought of his daughter on Earth, 8 years old, probably asleep in her bed, unaware that death approached from the stars. Activate stealth fields, he ordered. Move the fleet into position around Mars. Standard encirclement pattern. No active scans. No communications. We are ghosts until I say otherwise. Yes, sir. Throughout the solar system, humanity moved in silence. Ships lifted from hidden bases on the moon. Weapons platforms powered up inside hollowed asteroids. Defense satellites that had appeared dormant suddenly came online. Their true purpose revealed. Earth had learned long ago that the galaxy was not kind to the weak, so humanity had prepared not with speeches or threats, with steel and fire and the cold mathematics of war on the alien flagship Dominance. Commander Vex stood before the strategic display. He was tall, even for his species, with 4 arms and eyes that could see into the infrared spectrum. Around him, his officers worked with casual efficiency. This was their 100th conquest. Perhaps their 150th. They had stopped counting. Status of the target world? BX asked. Primitive? His science officer replied. Early space age. They have scattered vessels in orbit. Nothing that poses a threat. Their weapons technology is centuries behind ours. Vex nodded. It was always the same. Young species discovered space travel, built a few ships, and thought themselves mighty. Then the galaxy arrived and taught them the truth. Estimated resistance minimal to none. Their entire orbital fleet could be destroyed in the first strike. Planetary conquest should take less than a solar rotation? Good. Vex turned to his communications officer. Send them the standard message. Give them one chance to surrender. The message went out across all frequencies. Cool, simple, final. This system is now claimed by the Dominion. Surrender your world and submit to integration. Resistance will result in extinction. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply. On Earth, the message played in the council chamber. No one spoke. No one moved. President Morrison looked at General Hayes. Do we respond? No, Hayes said firmly. Silence is our first weapon. Let them wonder. Let them worry. They'll think we're paralyzed with fear. Good. Let them think that. The alien fleet crossed the orbit of Saturn. Still, no response from Earth. Vex found that curious, but not concerning. Fear often struck species silent. His fleet continued forward, weapons ready, but not charged. There was no need. This would be over before it began. But on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, Captain Rodriguez watched as the alien armada entered the kill zone. Mars hung before them like a red jewel in the darkness. The alien fleet was so focused on Earth, so confident in their approach, they didn't even scan the space around the red planet. Distance to contact? Rodriguez asked quietly. 400,000 kilometers and closing. His tactical officer replied. Fleet status. All ships in position. Complete encirclement achieved. The enemy is surrounded. They don't know it yet. Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had made their first mistake. They had assumed humanity was weak. That Earth was unprepared. That no young species could threaten the might of the Dominion. They were about to learn differently. Maintain stealth, he ordered. Wait for my command. The alien fleet reached Mars orbit. Commander Vex looked at the blue of Earth beyond, just 3 days away now. He turned to his weapons officer. Begin charging primary weapons. Prepare for first strike on their orbital installations. Yes, Commander. Throughout the Dominion fleet, massive cannons began to glow. Energy gathered in weapon arrays designed to crack planets. This was the moment before victory, the calm before the massacre. Vex felt satisfaction wash over him. Another world would fall. Another species would kneel. The galaxy would remember that the Dominion could not be stopped. Then his sensor officer made a sound. Not quite a word. More like a gasp of disbelief. Commander, we have a problem. What problem? Vex demanded. The officer's hands shook as he worked his console. Contacts all around us. Hundreds of contacts. No, thousands. They just appeared out of nowhere. Vex's blood turned cold. He strode to the sensor display. What he saw made no sense. The space around his fleet, empty just seconds ago, was now filled with ships. Human ships, dark and angular, and absolutely silent. They formed a perfect sphere around the Dominion Armada. Every escape route blocked, every tactical advantage neutralized. How? Vex whispered. How did they hide from our sensors? No one had an answer. On the eternal vigil, Rodriguez stood and straightened his uniform. Around his ship, 24,416 human warships dropped their stealth fields simultaneously. The effect was dramatic. Space itself seemed to ripple as thousands of vessels appeared from nothing. The alien fleet, so confident in its approach, now floated, trapped in the heart of a human sphere. Rodriguez opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Rodriguez to all fleet units. Weapons free. Lock targets. Await my command. Throughout the human fleet, targeting systems came alive. Every alien ship suddenly had multiple human vessels aimed directly at it. The silence was absolute. Two fleets faced each other. One had come to conquer. The other had come to teach a lesson about the cost of threatening Earth. Sir, Rodriguez's communications officer said, the alien commander is attempting to hail us. Ignore it, Rodriguez replied. Let them sweat. Let them understand what it feels like to be hunted. On the Dominance, Commander Vex stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His fleet was trapped, surrounded, outmaneuvered. This young species, this primitive world, had somehow built a fleet that rivaled the might of the Dominion itself. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. It was happening. All ships, he ordered, his voice tight. Battle formation. Charge all weapons. Prepare to break through the encirclement. His officers moved to obey, but Vex could see the fear in their eyes. They had never faced an enemy like this. Never been the one surrounded, never been the prey. Mars hung in the space between the two fleets, silent and red and patient. The planet that had witnessed humanity's first steps into the wider solar system would now witness something else. A message written in fire and steel, a declaration that Earth would not kneel, that humanity would not surrender, that some worlds, when threatened, did not run or hide or beg for mercy. They fought and they won. The Mars graveyard. Commander Vex stood frozen on the bridge of the Dominance, his forearms gripping the command console. The tactical display showed a nightmare. His 15,000 ships, the pride of the Dominion fleet, sat trapped inside a perfect sphere of human warships. He had conquered 47 worlds. He had seen species surrender at the mere sight of his armada. This should have been simple options, he demanded. His tactical officer worked frantically at her console. We outnumber them 6-1. Commander, if we coordinate a breakthrough at a single point, concentrate all firepower. Do it, Vex ordered. Target the human vessels at Grid Section 7 Alpha. All ships. Full weapons release. The order rippled through the Dominion fleet. Massive energy cannons rotated into position. Missile ports opened like hungry mouths. Every weapon system charged simultaneously. The space around Mars began to glow with gathered power. On the eternal vigil, alarms chirped softly. Sir, the tactical officer reported, enemy fleet is charging weapons. They're concentrating fire on Shadowwing's position. Captain Rodriguez remained calm. He had expected this. Shadow Wing fall back 3,000 kilometers. Ghost Squadron move into support position. All ships prepared to demonstrate why we don't advertise our real capabilities. Throughout the human fleet, orders flowed. Ships that had appeared dormant suddenly showed their true nature. Engines that had seemed small flared with tremendous power. Weapon systems that had looked primitive unfolded into something far more advanced. Humanity had spent decades building these vessels in secret, learning from every scrap of alien technology they could acquire, improving it, perfecting it. The Dominion had shown the galaxy their strength. Humanity had hidden theirs. "They're firing," Rodriguez's officer announced. Space exploded with light. Thousands of energy beams lanced out from the alien fleet, all converging on a single section of the human sphere. Plasma bolts that could melt through starship armor like butter. Missiles carrying warheads that could crack moons. It was the concentrated firepower of an empire that had never known defeat. The human ships in the target zone activated their defensive systems. Energy shields flared to life, but not the weak barriers the Dominion expected. These shields were dense, layered, powered by reactors that shouldn't have existed in such young technology. The alien weapons struck like hammers against anvils, and the anvils held. Commander Vex watched in disbelief as the human shields absorbed the assault. Some damage showed. A few human ships fell back with scorched holes, but they didn't break, didn't shatter, didn't die. "Impossible," he whispered. "That much firepower should have vaporized them." His science officer's voice shook. "Commander, they're reactor signatures. Each human vessel is generating power equivalent to 3 of our battleships and their shield technology. I've never seen anything like it." Before Vex could respond, the human fleet answered. Not with a concentrated barrage like the Dominion had used. Instead, every human ship fired at once. Thousands of weapons spoke simultaneously. The effect was apocalyptic. Human railguns launched projectiles at relativistic speeds. Energy beams cut through space with surgical precision. Missiles stirred toward their targets with impossible accuracy, but it was the new weapons that truly shocked the Dominion. Pulse cannons that seemed to tear at the fabric of space itself. Gravity wells that crushed alien shields like paper. Weapons that shouldn't exist in the hands of a species so young. The first wave of human fire struck the Dominion fleet like the fist of an angry god. Alien ships died. Not dozens, hundreds. Their shields, so mighty against other galactic species, crumbled under the human assault. Hulls that had survived countless battles peeled open. Ships that had conquered worlds became expanding clouds of debris. In the first 10 seconds, the Dominion lost more vessels than they had in the last decade of conquest. "Evasive action," Beck screamed. "All ships scatter. Break formation." But there was nowhere to go. The human sphere was perfect. Every direction was blocked. Every escape route covered. The Dominion fleet began to break apart. Ships fleeing in random directions, each one desperate to survive. But the human vessels moved with them, matching every maneuver, maintaining the encirclement. Captain Rodriguez watched the alien formation collapse. Target their command ships first. Weapons free. Fire at will. Throughout the human fleet, targeting computers identified the largest Dominion vessels. The flagships, the carriers, the dreadnoughts that led alien conquest. Human weapons found them one by one. The Dominance shook as a railgun slug tore through its port side. Vex was thrown against his console. Alarms shrieked throughout the ship. Damage report. Hull breach on deck 7 through 12. Shield generators offline. We're venting atmosphere. Another impact, this time from an energy beam that sliced through the ship's aft section like a blade through flesh. The Dominance which had led the destruction of 47 worlds began to die. "Retreat," Vex ordered. "Signal all ships. Full retreat. Abandon the attack." His communications officer looked at him with wide eyes. "Commander, retreat where they have us surrounded." Vex stared at the tactical display. The officer was right. There was no retreat, no escape. The human fleet had closed every gap, blocked every path. The Dominion Armada, which had approached Earth with such confidence, now thrashed like an animal in a trap. On Earth, in the council chamber deep beneath the Alps, leaders watched the battle unfold in real time. The holographic display showed the struggle around Mars in terrible clarity. President Morrison stood with General Hayes, both silent as they witnessed humanity's hidden strength finally revealed. "How long has this fleet existed?" Morrison asked quietly. Hayes never took her eyes from the display. "Since the resource wars? Since we first detected signals from beyond our system? Since we realized we might not be alone? We've been preparing for this for 50 years, Mr. President. Preparing in secret, hoping we'd never need it. And if we had lost? If they had been stronger?" Ace finally looked at him. "Then at least we would have gone down fighting. At least Earth would have known we tried." Around Mars, the battle reached its crescendo. The Dominion fleet, desperate and dying, made one final coordinated assault. Every remaining ship charged their weapons simultaneously, pouring everything they had into a concentrated strike at a single human vessel. If they could break through, show weakness, perhaps the humans would negotiate. They chose the Eternal Vigil as their target. Captain Rodriguez's flagship, 2,000 Dominion ships focused every weapon on a single point in space. "Sir," his tactical officer shouted. "Multiple target locks? They're all firing at us." Rodriguez stood firm. "All power to forward shields. Route auxiliary power from life support if necessary. Show them why you don't threaten." Earth. The Eternal Vigil's shields blazed with such intensity they were visible to the naked eye. A sphere of pure energy surrounded the ship as thousands of alien weapons struck. The ship shook. Deck plates groaned. Systems overloaded, but the shields held. And when the barrage ended, when the last alien weapon had expended its fury, the Eternal Vigil remained intact. Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Our turn. All ships Alpha Protocol." And this, what followed, was not a battle. It was execution. The human fleet moved with mechanical precision, each ship knowing exactly what to do. They had trained for decades for this moment. They had practiced these maneuvers in the dark spaces between planets where no one could see. Now that training bore terrible fruit. Dominion ships died by the dozen, then by the hundred. Explosions blossomed throughout the sphere like deadly flowers. Escape pods launched desperately, but even these were corralled by human vessels. There would be prisoners, witnesses, who would carry the message back to the galaxy. Earth was protected. Earth was defended. Earth would not fall. Commander Vex sat in the ruins of his command bridge, watching his fleet die on the cracked displays. Half his ships were gone. The other half were crippled or fleeing uselessly within the human trap. He had failed. The Dominion had failed. This young species, this world that should have been easy prey, had crushed them. "Commander," his communications officer said softly, "the humans are hailing us." Vex almost laughed. Now they wanted to talk. After destroying his fleet, after demonstrating such overwhelming power, put them through. Captain Rodriguez's face appeared on the screen. Human. 2 eyes. 2 arms. So simple. So young. And yet those eyes held something ancient. Something hard. "I am Captain James Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Fleet," he said calmly. "Your invasion of our system has failed. Your fleet is destroyed. You have 2 choices. Surrender your remaining vessels and submit to internment, or continue fighting and be destroyed to the last ship." Vex wanted to rage, to threaten, to promise revenge, but he looked at his tactical display and saw the truth. The Dominion was beaten utterly completely. "I surrender," he said, the words tasting like poison. "We surrender." Rodriguez nodded. "Lower your weapons. Power down your engines. Any ship that makes aggressive moves will be destroyed without warning. You came to conquer Earth. Instead, you die at Mars. Let your empire learn from this." The channel closed. Throughout what remained of the Dominion fleet, ships began to power down. Weapons went dark. Engines fell silent. The invasion was over. In the council chamber on Earth, cheers erupted. People embraced, some wept with relief. President Morrison stood watching the display, seeing the alien fleet broken and contained around Mars. "What now?" he asked Hayes. "Now," she replied, "we send a message to the galaxy. We broadcast what happened here. We let every alien empire know that Earth is not easy prey, that humanity does not surrender, that we have been preparing, that we are ready. Will they come again?" Other fleets. Hayes looked at the field of debris around Mars, at the captured alien vessels, at the human fleet standing victorious. "Maybe, probably, but next time they'll think twice. Next time they'll remember Mars. They'll remember the day an alien armada came to destroy Earth and never made it past the Red Planet." Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, looking at Mars through the main viewport. The planet hung there, red and patient, surrounded now by the wreckage of alien ambition. It would take weeks to clear the debris, months to process the prisoners, years to fully understand the technology they had captured. But the important thing was done. Earth was safe. Humanity had proven itself, not through conquest or expansion, but through defense, through preparation, through the simple determination to survive. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "Fleet Command is requesting our status." "Tell them we're secure," Rodriguez replied. "Tell them the invasion has been repelled. Tell them Mars held the line." He thought of his daughter safe on Earth, probably awake now, eating breakfast, unaware of how close death had come. He thought of all the children, all the families, all the people who would never know how close they came to extinction. They would never know, because humanity had been ready. Because 50 years ago, someone had looked at the stars and understood the truth. The galaxy was not safe. The universe was not kind. And if humanity wanted to survive, it would need more than hope. It would need teeth. Mars hung in space, a monument now. The graveyard of an empire's ambition, the proof that Earth would not kneel. That humanity, young and small and fragile as it seemed, could stand against the darkness and emerge victorious. The message went out across all frequencies, broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. A simple statement accompanied by footage of the battle of the trapped alien fleet of the human victory. "This is Earth. We are humanity. We do not seek conquest. We do not desire war, but we will not be victims." To any empire listening, to any fleet considering our world as prey, remember Mars. Remember what happens when you threaten our home. Turn back, find easier targets. Leave Earth alone, or join the graveyard that orbits the Red Planet. The broadcast ended across the galaxy in 1,000 alien councils and command centers. Beings of every species watched the footage and understood. Earth was no longer easy prey. Humanity was no longer defenseless. The young species had grown teeth, and it knew how to use them. In the years that followed, other fleets would come. Other empires would test humanity's resolve. But they would come carefully, respectfully, understanding that the species from the blue planet was different, that humans had done something rare in the galaxy. They had prepared for war while hoping for peace. They had built weapons while dreaming of exploration. And when threatened, they had defended their home with a fury that shook the stars. Mars remained orbiting eternally, wearing its new name like a badge of honor. The graveyard planet, the Red Guardian, the place where alien ambition came to die and human determination was born. The first battle was over. The message was sent. Earth endured, and the galaxy would never forget.